Okay, so this is my Kite Runner analysis video for Miss Mullins' second period. So here's the summary. The story of Kite Runner is told through the eyes of Amir, a young passionate boy born into wealth. He is close friends with his father's servant's son, Hassan, a young Hazara boy who is constantly discriminated against. As young children, both boys face serious, heavy situations as Amir witnesses a wealthy, passionate boy, Asif, rape his best friend, Hassan. Both children are scared and scarred, and this event drives the plot further. Amir's guilt leads him to hurt Hassan more until it drives him away. Later, the Soviets invade Afghanistan, and through Baba's decision, him and Amir move to America. In America, Amir grows into manhood but still holds his guilt. With a call from a family friend, Rahim Khan, Amir is told he has an opportunity to be good again. Amir travels back to Afghanistan, where he learns Hassan has been murdered by the Taliban, and his son was sent to an orphanage. Amir's goal now is to save Sohrab, Hassan's son. Learning that Asif has taken Sohrab and sexually harmed him, Amir saves Sohrab and takes him to America, where he learns there is no one to care for Sohrab, and he might have to go back into an orphanage. Upset with the news, Sohrab attempts to commit suicide, and after the attempt, Sohrab becomes quiet. Amir takes him to an Afghani festival, where they fly a kite, and Amir reflects on his life, believing he has redeemed himself for the negligence he has done to Hassan. So here's the first device, literary device, which is flashback. So here's the quote. Looking back now, I realize I have been peeking into that deserted alley for the last 26 years, from page 1. Now, this is a quote from Amir indicating the reader of a scene that will occur in the novel later on, and will become a significant effect on the rest of his life. When he talks about the deserted alley, the author is showing that Amir is alone in his guilt, as loneliness is commonly associated with alleys. This also shows how he is alone in his guilt for the last 26 years, so now he is the only person that can confess to and become healed from all of the wounds he generated in the past. One interesting thing about this flashback is that it also serves as a foreshadowing, as the alley is also where Hassan is raped. Also, by beginning with a flashback, Hassini feeds into the theme of past memories or guilt affecting your current or present self. The second literary device is imagery. The quote is, I am a baby in that photograph, and Baba is holding me, looking tired and grim. I'm in his arms, but it's Rahim Khan's pinky my fingers are curled around. So this detail of Amir's birth, that was misspelled, birth makes the reader notice that even as a baby, Amir and Baba haven't had the best relationship with one another since he was born. So clearly, because he has his fingers curled around Rahim Khan, it also symbolizes his not necessarily close relationship with, but his better relationship with Rahim Khan, as Rahim Khan is very supportive of Amir's poetry and his writing. And so this imagery just helps depict from since birth that Amir and Baba don't really have a strong relationship with each other. My third literary device is foreshadowing. The quote is, this isn't the end for you either, Amir. Someday I'll make you face me one-on-one, page 43. So this statement is made by Asif, which foreshadows the fight that both him and Amir have when Amir returns to Kabul in order to retrieve Sohrab. This beating, when they fight, he takes a beating, which helps him reconcile for his sins, and the picture depicted is that of Amir drenched in blood, similar to a Christ figure, as, Jesus was, whipped with, the whips, obviously, and had the thorn crown, so he was bleeding, and he was, drenched in this blood. The drenching also symbolizes a shower, as he is rinsing and washing his guilt away, as kind of relates to the pomegranate scene where Amir is trying to get Hassan to fight back and to, basically give him the pain that should go along with his guilt, so he feels as if he feels the pain, he can finally resolve himself of the guilt. And through this beating, he is resolving himself of this guilt. He is being washed in the blood of his own, and he's being washed by his own blood. He's being, in his eyes, redeemed through this beating. My next and final literary device is repetition. This is a pretty obvious one. The quote is, for you 1,000 times over, page 67, 194, 305, and 371. Though this statement is only mentioned 4 times in the book, it still holds a massive amount of significance and meaningful impact. This phrase symbolizes Hassan's unwavering loyalty for Amir and is later said by Amir to Sohrab, Hassan's son, most likely showing Amir's understanding of Hassan's loyalty for him and his newfound loyalty and compassion for Sohrab, as he is compassionate because Sohrab has been sexually harassed by Asif. He's also gone through, and Amir went through a beating to save Sohrab, and now he's flying kites with Sohrab, just how Hassan and Amir used to fly kites, and it just symbolizes the continuation of Hassan and Amir's friendship through Sohrab, even though Sohrab is at a very damaged place right now. In the final scene where they're kite running together, Sohrab is happy, and he does show some type of enjoyment for the first time in a while. After he committed suicide, he became very quiet. His eyes were glassy, it says in the book. So he's very to himself because he feels very damaged. He feels very dirty from being sexually assaulted, which is why he takes so long in the shower. Basically, for you 1,000 times over is what Hassan said to Amir, and what now Amir will say to Sohrab. Next is the text-to-text evidence and text-to-world evidence. So the text-to-text evidence is Amir and Iago from Othello. So Amir's action in hiding his watch and money under Hassan's mattress in order to frame him is a devious and mischievous plot to get rid of him. This is similar to Iago's plot in Othello to get rid of Cassio. He plays into Cassio's temper, causing a brawl and getting him fired, all in order to exact revenge and steal his job. While Iago is definitely more evil than Amir, this does show, to an extent, the state of mind Amir was in when enacting his plot against Hassan. So it kind of just this is basically just saying, like, Amir and Iago are alike in some ways. Like, even though Amir isn't as bad as Iago is, they do still share some type of similar traits to where they're willing to backstab people that they know and people that trust them in order to, in Amir's case, resolve himself of guilt, and in Iago's case, to exact revenge for something he believed he should have had. Next is the text-to-world evidence. Amir's journey and people in general. Amir's journey is ultimately beginning with a misdeed, fighting the guilt, running from it, and finally facing it head-on in search for redemption. While our journeys through guilt may not be as serious or grave or dramatized as Amir's is, we all go through this cycle of guilt in some capacity, big or small. Things we have done in the past will always remain, just as Amir will forever remember his negligence of Hassan. Even though he has redeemed himself in his own eyes, he will always remember what he didn't do and what he could have done. Text itself was just Hassan's unwavering loyalty for Amir's. Resonates well for me because Hassan was always able to forgive Amir even for his negligence, and until Hassan's death, Hassan remained loyal to Amir, taking care of the house, etc. I identify well with this trait of Hassan because I'm quite loyal myself. Maybe not to the extent, like, I wouldn't necessarily, be loyal to someone who failed to do something for me when they could have done something, especially in Hassan's case when he's being raped. But I still will always find a way to forgive someone, but never forget. So here's the setting. Afghanistan was a very prejudicial and in the first half against Hazaras. Pashtuns were generally wealthier and seen as better than Hazaras. This setting made Amir's friendship with Hassan frowned upon and caused Amir to be more cool towards Hassan, also leading to Hassan's rape. In the second half, Afghanistan is run by the Taliban, showcasing extreme prejudice against Hazaras, leading to Hassan's murder and Sohrab's sexual assault, and also Amir's beating by Asif. America, which is a different setting, is depicted as a land of opportunity, normally during in novels, and symbolizes a second chance for Amir. During 1979, America was becoming a cultural melting pot as immigrants came from around the world, all of which looking for new opportunities. Bob and Amir settle into the American lifestyle in a way and slowly become Americanized. However, they do still retain their cultural entity, primarily shown in the novel through Baba's proposal to the general, and Amir's marriage with Soraya. Here are my favorite quotations. For you 1,000 times over. We've talked about that before, but basically, I like this quote because it symbolizes Hassan's loyalty, and I can resonate well as it is something I would say or think about a close friend. Number 2 is, a man with no conscience will not suffer. I like this quote because it helps Amir realize that he does have a conscience, because he is suffering from the guilt he has experienced, and it also serves to show that Asif has no conscience because he seems to enjoy making others suffer without suffering himself. And finally, my third one is, there is a way to be good again. This quote I like because it drives the second half of the plot, and it reminds us all that there is always a way to redeem ourselves. So here are my unique discoveries. They're both from the same place, as you can tell through the hyperlink or whatever. So Khalid Hosseini was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, similar to Amir. Kabul was a cosmopolitan city at the time. Western culture, including movies and literature, mixed with Afghan traditions such as kite fighting in the winter. Amir and Hassan both took part in these activities. Lavish parties were normal at the Hosseini's family's home in the upper middle class neighborhood of Wazir Akbar Khan, similar to Baba's lavish parties. While Khalid Hosseini has said before that his first novel is largely fictional, being Kite Runner, he acknowledges that the Afghanistan he knew as a child inspired it. Like his main character Amir, Khalid Hosseini enjoyed Western films and kite fighting. He also lived in a pre-revolutionary Afghanistan that had not yet been ravaged by the Soviet invasion and subsequent Taliban rule. In a 2003 interview with Newsline, Khalid Hosseini said that passages in the book most resembling his life are those of Amir and Baba as immigrants in the United States. When the Hosseinis arrived in California, they had difficulty adjusting to the new culture, and for a short time his family lived on welfare. He also remembers the local flea market where he and his father worked, briefly among other Afghans, just as Amir and Baba did in the book. My final analysis is that overall my understanding and enjoyment of the text is pretty high as of now. The book offered a lot of big ideas and said a lot about the human condition to me, mostly about redemption and guilt, and how that is a driving factor in humanity. I did enjoy the novel as a whole, as well as the analysis after reading it. On a scale from 1 to 10, I would personally rank it as an 8, because it has an intriguing, compelling story. However, the conclusion does seem up in the air for me, and I would have liked to read more in order to tie the loose ends, such as Sorab and a lot of the other loose ends that weren't really answered in the ending and the conclusion. My Q3 essay liquid stuff, I don't know what to call this. Basically, in the article, The Kite Runner from a Marxist perspective, it states, in The Kite Runner, Amir is the kite flyer, while Hassan is the kite runner. Due to Hassan's Hazara ethnicity, he cannot be more than a kite runner. The relationship between the kite flyer and the kite runner amplify the social and class differences between the two races, as Amir is in charge because he is the kite flyer, who is quite literally, in the case of the kite, above Hassan. Amir commands Hassan to retrieve the last fallen kite, almost a hybrid game of catch. This can be used to highlight the social class differences between the Pashtuns and Hazaras in the novel. This will be helpful for any prompt that asks for social effects or even cultural effects on characters or something similar to that. Overall, this is to show how the social and cultural prejudice is showcased in the novel. The next one is, in the article, The Kite Runner, Guilt as a Driving Force of Humanity. The author states Amir, the main character, is perpetually confronted by the guilt. While on the surface he seems to be a carefree child of a rich and popular father, he harbors the guilt of his sin deep within his heart. These guilts come back to haunt him throughout his whole life, reappearing as vivid flashbacks in which he relives his sin. While he tries to bury his past and forget about it, it comes calling, and remorse can make him feel persuaded to take action. This primarily focuses on guilt and how it eventually forces the mirror to take action and redeem himself. This can be used for problems asking of guilt and redemption, and helps highlight that guilt is forever a driving force for humanity. So yeah, this is pretty much it. I should be done now. Yep.